Just be the Land Expropriation Act that is causing all the dust between, or the tension between the United States of America and South Africa. These two countries in the West, the United States is the giant of the West, and in Africa as a continent, South Africa is the biggest economy in Africa. Could it be that the tension that is going on between these two countries that has led to the expulsion of the ambassadors back and forth? Could it be that South Africa is trying to defy the big nation, the big brother? South Africa is a sovereign state and should be allowed to make its decisions by itself. The United States is trying to undermine the sovereignty of South Africa. South Africa has come up to say no. The government of South Africa under Cyril Ramaphosa has come up to say, we are tackling on whatever that is coming our way from the United States head on. We are not backing off. The tension between these two countries, South Africa and United States, became more surfaced or pronounced when the government of South Africa announced the new Expropriation Land Act, which was enacted in the Constitution of South Africa.
Ties between South Africa and the US remain tense. It started with President Donald Trump inaccurately and without evidence accusing South Africa of confiscating land from white farmers. He then froze aid to the country.
Under this act or legislation, any land which is owned by anyone in South Africa and the government deems it necessary to be used for public interest has to be taken from such individual. There can be compensation or no compensation. Back to the basis, the white minorities in South Africa who became South Africans after the settlement in South Africa and the end of apartheid regime became part and parcel and citizens of South Africa permanently, are just only 7% of South African population, and they own over 78% of land in South Africa. Most of these lands are owned by the whites, and also some of the lands are abandoned or not in use. So the Land Expropriation Act is meant to bring out some of these lands from people who owns this land, and if it can be for the best or the interest of the public, the government will take it up from these people, from the original owners, and establish infrastructures that can benefit the public of South Africa. This caused more tension between South Africa and the United States because Trump came out to accuse the South African government under Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, that South Africa is marginalizing or acting discriminatorily against the white minority in South Africa by taking off their lands. The government of South Africa stand by their word or by their act that this land expropriation is for the benefit of South Africans in general. Before this Land Expropriation Act, there has been other rifts, there has been diplomatic tension between the United States and South Africa. But this Land Expropriation Act brought more things to surface, To Trump, he feels that this is a cut or a bite to the whites in South Africa. So Trump defending the white South Africans. Let us look at some other things that have transpired between South Africa and the United States. Other things that has caused this rift prior to January this year, that Trump declared more sanctions and full-blown diplomatic tension and rifts between South Africa and the United States. The United States accused South Africa of being an ally to Russia in the Ukrainian-Russia war. The United States was expecting South Africa to align with the United States and other Western powers against Russia. But South Africa declared neutrality over Russia-Ukraine war. You know what neutrality means? I am not siding any of these groups. I'm not in the side of the West against Russia, and I'm not siding Russia against Ukraine or against West. So the United States sees South Africa as an enemy. The foreign policy of the United States is always the type that if you're not an ally to the United States, you are an enemy. They don't want in between. They don't want a cross line. Like you are neither there or there. They don't want neutrality. They want it to be that if you are for them, you are for them. And if you are not for them, you are against them. So you are with the enemy. So they see South Africa declaring neutrality in the Russia and Ukraine war as a smoke. Another thing that is believed to be causing the rift between the United States and South Africa is the connection of South Africa to the BRICS nations. South Africa's connection to the BRICS nations is causing more aggression from the United States or diplomatic meltdown between these two countries. So, do you think that the United States want to use South Africa as an example to showcase what happens to a developing power tries to challenge a super world power? But let's not forget that South Africa is a sovereign country, just like the United States, even though the United States of America is way, way bigger than South Africa economically and militarily. But South Africa is still an established sovereign state. Let's not forget that South Africa appealed against a particular state in the Middle East, which I will not mention. South Africa has refused to withdraw its appeal against the war going on in Gaza, which the United States sees as a threat or a defiance against the United States interest in Gaza. So this is causing more trouble and the rift between these two countries. South Africa insists that it's not going to withdraw the appeal in the ICJ because South Africa has been in such a state before, apartheid regime. So this is one of the reasons why the diplomatic meltdown between the South Africa and the United States is still ongoing. More so, the United States sees South Africa as violating the AGOA agreement, that's African Growth and Opportunity Act, that allows African countries to have a duty-free shipment from the United States. The United States sees South Africa as violating this act because of its close connection with the countries like China and Russia, and threatening to cut off or boycott South Africa. This act stipulates that African countries has trade alliance with the United States, and countries like China and Russia, the United States perceive China as the new superpower economically and militarily. So the United States feels that South Africa is violating this law by trading or having common contacts or ties with these countries, China and Russia. So the Land Expropriation Act in South Africa is one of the significant reasons that surfaced tension between these two countries. So Trump criticized this law, saying that it's a terrible thing, that South African government is marginalizing the white minority in South Africa. This is the genesis of the whole issue, the tension that has been going on between South Africa. It looks as if this issue is more personal to Trump. The government of South Africa is acting within the bounds of South African constitution and to redistribute lands to the disadvantaged population of South Africans in order to ensure food security and stability. White farmers, who are only 7% in South Africa, retains over 61 million hectares of land in South Africa. So let's look at it this way. Can this actually affect South Africa in any way? Can this further break down the relationship between South Africa and the United States? Well, South Africa, like we know, I've always said, is a sovereign state, and United States is also a sovereign state. South Africa has its own power to make decisions within South African jurisdiction. The United States has come up against South Africa in so many ways by cutting off the US aids and also wanting to cut off the AGOA trade agreements. So the effects of this tension can be felt in South Africa. The diplomatic meltdown has come to a point where the United States called the ambassador of South Africa to the United States non grata personnel. That it means that the connection between these two countries has gone so bad, that's deteriorated to the point that it is a total meltdown. So economically, the United States has placed a very huge tariff on South Africa, especially on the automotive and the citrus, the juice coming in from South Africa into the United States. So you can see, but South Africa is looking for other means to expand its trade to other parts of the world, to other countries of the world. The trade uncertainty between South Africa and the United States is threatening a lot of jobs in South Africa. Finally, let's hope that the tension between the United States and South Africa will calm down a bit. You know, the South African government has taken a stand that it wants a peaceful resolution to all this tension diplomatically. Well, as time goes on, more and more things comes to play, and with that, we know how all these tensions from the United States to other parts of the world, to Africa, to Asia, more and more things unfold, and we are waiting to see more. Thank you for watching.